Chicago for this Wednesday night WNBA tilt between the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever. Terrific news for the Sky and the WNBA as a whole. Candace Parker warming up prior to tip-off. She will make her Windy City debut tonight after missing the last 8 games with an ankle injury. Good evening, folks. Welcome inside Wintrust Arena. Matt Schumacher, Megan McEwen with you. Megan, it's been weeks since either team has tasted victory. What do each have to do tonight to get back into the win column?
Indiana ranks last in the league in both points per game offensively and defensively. Look for the Fever to work on improving that base defense. On the flip side, Chicago head coach James Wade says he's looking to cut down on the turnovers. The Sky lead the league in most turnovers committed per game. That means they're trying to keep it simple, cutting out nearly 60% of the playbook, just focusing on a few minute things in hopes of cutting down on those turnovers.
Well, turnovers certainly have been an issue. It's part of the reason why Chicago has its longest losing streak since 2012. They've lost 7 straight. Indiana has lost 5 straight, Megan.
Both of these teams just looking to get back into the win column. Both of these teams have dealt with some injuries, some potential players not being able to make it into games. However, tonight, very much looking forward to seeing Candace Parker get back on the floor for Chicago, making her Wintrust Arena debut back at home.
Let's take a look at the starting lineups tonight. Of course, Candace Parker in the starting lineup for the first time since the season opener, all the way back in the beginning of May. Meanwhile, for the Indiana Fever, an interesting substitution here, Megan. Tierra McGowan not in the starting lineup tonight.
And you have in replace of her Jantel Lavender, the former Chicago Sky forward, playing in that place. This Indiana Fever team still really young, looking for those veterans like Jantel Lavender to step up and play, showing those players how it is done in the WNBA. Marianne
Stanley in her second season as the head coach for the Indiana Fever said that after this 5-day layoff since their last game, they want to come out and throw the first punch tonight. Indiana's lost 5 straight. They're 1-9. Chicago 2-7. They've lost 7 in a row. And of course, Candace Parker out for all 7 of those games. Here we go from Chicago. Indiana controls the tip. Danielle Robinson running the point for Indiana. And right away, Copper to the dish.
Candace Parker showing why she's so valuable at her height, 6'5". She's a point forward, able to take the ball down. Kalia Copper makes the read, gets to the basket. Did the Sky miss her? I think yes. Look at her playing point guard. Copper getting up, what she does best, getting into those passing lanes, slashing to the basket on offense.
Indiana coming off a 4-game West Coast road trip. They were outscored 400-291. Playing some really tough teams, though. The Aces twice, the Storm, and the Sparks. 8 total days on the road for Indiana. Parker driving, had it ripped away by Jessica Breland. Tiffany Mitchell steps into a 3. There's Jantel Lavender. She's dealt with that foot injury, and at times this year has said, I feel like I'm stepping in mud, but she's excited to be back playing in Chicago against her former teammates. And she said, you know, Megan, she was shocked when she found out she was being traded to Indiana. It was part of a move that was really necessary from a salary cap perspective. Loved her time here in Chicago. How about that take from Diamond DeShields? And a chance at the 3-piece.
DeShields glides through the air so effortlessly, just kissing it right over the top of the rim, off the inbounds play. Great screen by Dolson, staying set. DeShields avoiding that charge happening, coming over and just staying in her space in order to finish.
James Wade, the Chicago Sky GM and head coach, feels like his team is in a good place in spite of the 7-game skid. Had the entire team over for dinner, a little barbecue at the Wade household earlier this week, and it was just an opportunity to recommit to their standards. Everyone on the team got a chance to talk. And he said he felt like it was really cool to see them come together outside of Wintrust Arena.
Wade called it ceremonial. Keep in mind, this Chicago Sky team was picked as one of the favorites to win the league and going on this 7-game losing streak. Granted, dealing with a lot of injuries, players having to leave for representing their country in the Olympics coming up. So haven't had a chance to really gel and mesh together. So just a good way to get back on track as Chantel Lavender knocks down the 3.
They do call it a deep 2 for Lavender.
And that's why you do play-by-play and I do not, because you can actually see the lines from this far away.
Courtney Vandersloot. Steph Dolson, of course, back with the Sky after 3-on-3 qualifying with Team USA for the Olympic Games this summer. Vandersloot in and out. To your point about players missing for national team duties, Megan, plus injuries, I mean, this has been a revolving door roster for the Sky. Natasha Mack was signed, waived, then signed again before the game tonight.
And because that revolving door situation Chicago's had to deal with, that's why they're trying to keep things simple on the offensive side of the ball, focusing on just little things that are easy for everybody to recognize and work off of.
There's Jessica Breland. A lot of contact, no call. Back the other way we go. Copper on the thread from Candace Parker.
Thread the needle. How about the bounce pass from nearly half court? Parker's vision leading Copper to the rack.
One of the league's best passers throughout her career. Certainly the Sky have missed her. It's a team that has averaged just 75 points per game this season after they were one of the most potent offenses in the league last year. And likewise for Indiana, these teams mirror each other in a lot of ways, Megan, in terms of the mistakes that have been made, the things that have led to losses. The big difference, though, Indiana is very young, and Chicago has expectations to win a title this year.
Candace Parker brings that veteran leadership and ability on the floor to do things just like that. Defensively in the paint, she's a force to be reckoned with on the offensive side of the ball. She has the ability to step out and knock down the 3, but also go to work in the post.
Lavender, another deep 2 off the front end. Here comes Diamond DeShields. And Parker had it picked away by Robinson. Tiffany Mitchell on the drive. And now a 3 for Kelsey Mitchell, knocks it down.
Kelsey Mitchell, the type of player you cannot give her the time and space to shoot the ball because she will knock it down if she gets her feet set.
Vandersloot out to Candace Parker. And Lavender tracks down the rebound. Mitchell defended by Copper. Got the better of her that time. Copper going baseline, fouled by Breland. 2 shots coming.
Already looking at Chicago's offense, it's created a lot of driving lanes for players like Kalia Copper to get to the basket. That's where Copper's at her strongest, slashing and getting to the paint. A double screen coming off, getting the ball, taking the contact. Kalia Copper is at her best when she has a lane to get in and score. Doesn't need a lot of room.
No, she does not. One of the most athletic guards in the league. Speaking of athletic guards, here comes Allie Quigley checking in for Chicago. No minutes restriction tonight for her. She missed 6 games earlier this season with a hamstring injury. Tying in with that theme of injuries and players absent due to national team duties. Stu do fall out for indefinitely, really, Megan, with the Spanish national team. So Chicago again down players, but glad to have Allie Quigley back. Glad to have Candace Parker back in the lineup as well.
And both Quigley and Parker have the ability to knock down the 3. That just stretches the floor for Chicago offensively, providing more space to move within its offense.
9-5 lead for Chicago early. Here's Quigley off the screen.
quickly, doesn't need a lot of time, feels the defender on her back, comes off, rubs off the screen, feels the back, knocks it down.
Coming off back-to-back games with 8 points. Was only 5 for 18 combined, though, in those 2 games. Lavender. That's an and-one opportunity for McCowan, actually. And we will step aside. Chicago leading early, 11-7. 3-point play opportunity coming after we come back for the Indiana Fever. Welcome back to Chicago. The Sky lead the Fever early, 11-7. And already, Megan, we're seeing that woman right there with the ice pack on her back. Maybe it's a heat pad. Candace Parker with 2 assists already in this game. And you were talking in the break, her presence just gives this Sky team a different dynamic.
Parker hasn't registered a number in the scoring column, but she already has 2 rebounds and 2 assists. Just her presence on the floor, her floor vision, and the way defenses have to guard her opens up so much more for Chicago's offense, for other players to step up and have easier time scoring.
Tierra McCowan at the line for the Fever. Coming off the bench for the first time this season. Completes the 3-point play. Fever have struggled to shoot the basketball, at least early. They're 3 for 11. Meanwhile, Chicago 4 for 9. Shooting 44%. Quigley, another high percentage shot in and out. And here come the Fever. Allen trying to go baseline on DeShields. And picked away by Vandersloot. DeShields trailing. That's a 3. Deep 2.
DeShields just got to get some smaller shoes on, try to get that foot behind the line. Great defensive possession, turning by Courtney Vandersloot, stealing the ball, then turning that into great transition offense.
And a deep 2 the other way from Jantown Lavender.
Lavender with the ability to step out and knock down those long-range jumpers only opens things up offensively for Indiana, but she's been the main source of scoring so far for the Fever.
Here's Steph Dolson, and rattles it home, her first points of the contest.
Chicago's movement without the ball has been really solid so far in this first quarter, getting players wide open in positions to score that high percentage area.
Mitchell drops Vandersloot, gives it up to Lavender. And now Vandersloot cradling the rock, knocked down, 2 shots coming.
Vandersloot making really good decisions of when to pass the ball, then when to keep it for herself and drive to the basket and go. Coming down this offensive possession, doesn't even use a screen, but beats Mitchell off the bounce and is able to absorb contact from the secondary defender coming over.
She's as durable as they come in this league, making her 95th consecutive start, dating back to 2018. Of course, was a WNBA first-team selection the last 2 years. Ruthie Hebert checking in for the Sky as Dolson heads to the bench. Hebert has been phenomenal in her sophomore campaign in the WNBA. Sky have stretched it to 7. And now it's Lindsay Allen running the point for the Fever. Vivians to McCowan. And an offensive foul called against Tierra McCowan.
Chicago had 3 white jerseys in the paint on that defensive possession. Indiana trying to dump the ball inside to 6'7" Tierra McCowan. DeShields in the right position, taking the contact, getting the charge called.
Marianne Stanley not pleased, giving Randy Richardson an earful as he comes down the court. Dana Evans is checked in. Here's Azuré Stevens.
Stevens has been shooting the ball really well from 3 so far this season, 46% from beyond the arc. The ability to step out, knock down at 6'6" for Stevens, spread that floor on offense.
She's another player too, Megan, who's dealt with just a basket load of injuries over the last couple of seasons. Had the foot surgery in 2019, the knee injury in 2020, which required off-season surgery. And she is on a minutes restriction tonight for Chicago, but James Wade said, don't be surprised if we test that a little bit.
As a coach, you're paying attention to a lot of different things you're in charge. Sometimes you're not quite keeping track of how many minutes. You have to have the trainer remind you. Coach Wade joking, sometimes he makes a slow walk. It's a long way to get to the scores table to try to sub someone out on a minute's restriction.
Home run pass from DeShields, and Stevens draws the foul in transition. That'll go against Victoria Vivians.
Looking like an open field on the football field, that pass.
There's been a lot of long passes in this game for Chicago. A couple of them from Candace Parker. Now that one from Diamond DeShields. And James Wade, you talked about it, Megan. He just wants his team to keep it simple, to get back to the basics, to run in transition, utilize that athleticism, and not overthink it. Here's Hebert popping out. Nothing but nylon.
Multiple jumpers made right in that free throw line area. The floor spacing is so good for Chicago right now. Players seem to have a lot of confidence going so far in this first quarter.
Backdoor cut. Missed everything. Vivians off the mark. Dana Evans a three. Why not? From the top of the arc.
Saw her do that a lot at Louisville throughout her college career, knocking it down with confidence, feet squared up as she comes and gets the pivot foot set.
And with the largest lead of the game for Chicago, Marianne Stanley calls a timeout. It's 25-10, and Dana Evans puts an exclamation point on a big run for the Sky.
Chicago's offense has started to really slow down in a good way for them. Dana Evans coming to get a pass to continue the offense. She has enough range and space to get the shot off, comes off, feet set, shoulder squared up to the basket. She has the ability to knock it down from that range.
First points in a Chicago Sky uniform. James Wade has to be happy with the way his offense is executed tonight.
Especially with the sparks off the bench. 10 bench points for Chicago already. To have the ability to go to your reserves and have them provide that spark on the floor when the starters come out, that's going to be massive for sustaining throughout the duration of the season.
And for Marianne Stanley, defensive aggressiveness, defensive discipline, those two things have been a struggle for her club again this year. They were 12th in the league last year in defense. They are 12th again this year, Megan. And part of it is just the youth on this team. Not only rookies, there's 3 of them, but 7 new players as well in Fever uniforms.
And not a ton of time in the preseason to get together and work on things. The WNBA preseason is so short, and especially with the COVID restrictions that were in place this year. So teams didn't have a ton of time to get that chemistry going on the floor early.
Here's Lavender. That's a deep 2. Chantel Lavender has been the bright spot for Indiana. Already 9 points on 3 of 6 to go along with 3 rebounds.
Lavender's been affected in the pick and pop. She's going to pop out, and she's been wide open multiple times.
Now she scoops up the loose ball. Vivian's on the kick out. Right down to McCowan, but tipped away by Hebert.
McCowan stands at 6'7" in the paint. Chicago trying to make sure the help side comes over to make her uncomfortable.
How about that pass from Diamond DeShields? Hebert trying to finish, has it rejected by McCowan.
6'7", they're going to reject the ball a lot of times on the defensive side, man.
Vivians off the mark, and the shot clock turned off to end the first quarter. Sky on a 14-2 run. Parker with tons of space. The step back, no. Hebert couldn't get it up before the horn. But it's a 25-12 lead for the Chicago Sky. They end the quarter on a 14-2 run. In Candace Parker's return in a Chicago Sky uniform. A beautiful Wednesday evening from downtown Chicago. And we are now super excited to be joined courtside by the WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. How are you enjoying your time courtside here in Chicago?
Matt, it's great to be back in Chicago. Great to have fans, albeit reduced. So we're hoping to lift some of those restrictions soon, and that's great to be here.
And great to see Candace Parker back in a uniform after missing the last month of the season.
Yeah, obviously Candace was, a great free agent transaction for Chicago this year. And, as part of collective bargaining, that's what we wanted to happen. A lot of conversation, a lot of excitement around bringing Candace back home, bringing other players, trades and free agency signings. So that was all part of lifting the profile of these players, having their stories told, and we're really excited that Candace is back.
And speaking of the excitement and lifting up these players, viewership ratings are up more than 70% right now and growing amongst the WNBA. What is the reason for this positive viewership?
Yeah, I think it's the stories that are being told. It's the amazing play on the court, of course. So all kudos to the players. Their strong social justice platform and voice last year in the Wubble and coming into this season. And really just, I think women's sports is having an entire lift coming off the NCAA Women's March Madness tournament and into the WNBA season. A great draft we had this year of some great players coming out of college and globally. So we're globalizing our game. We're growing our fans. We worked really hard last season on our digital engagement of fans through our Tap to Cheer app. So we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of transformation to do, but everything's pointing north as far as growing the game, growing our fan base, and giving the fans and bringing in new fans through, again, a second screen experience.
With all that being said, how do you continue this positive momentum surrounding viewership?
Yeah, you really have to continue fan engagement. You think about fans haven't been in stadiums and arenas in a long time, and now as the economy's opening up, as cities are opening up, and state and local restrictions are being lifted, mask requirements. I know not here in Chicago. I have mine right here, but I took it off for the interview. But it's definitely, we're going to start to see the ability to bring fans in, and we've been doing a lot of evaluating of our fan data. That's what digital does for you. It gives you data, and we skew younger, digital native, we skew more women, we skew more diverse, and now we can really target our marketing campaigns to bring in new fans.
Commissioner, obviously for most fans, they know this is the 25th anniversary of the WNBA. It's the longest women's professional sports league going here in the United States by double. What do you attribute that to?
Well, first, when it was first started by David Stern and Val Eckerman and Rick Welts, and we have Val and Rick on our 25th anniversary advisory council, along with some legends and players of the past. And, I attribute it to, coming off the '96 Olympics, the popularity of this game. There are 6 million young women, young girls who play the sport in the U.S. between the ages of 8 and 18, and they need these role models. And so just 25th anniversary, staying around. The NBA has been a huge advocate. NBA players have been huge advocates. You saw the Orange Hoodie campaign last year. And so there's just, again, there's so much more we can do to continue it, but I'm so proud of this league, and I came in 23 years in. I've only been with the league about 2 years now, but so much hard work has been done before I got here, and I'm very proud of what these players stand for today.
A 25-year legacy for this league. Only 144 players, 12 players on 12 teams. What does the landscape for expansion look like in this sport?
Yeah, Megan, it's a really good question. We're in this multi-dimensional transformation of the league. We need to get the economics right. We need to draw more fans. We need more media deals, more corporate sponsorships. And as we transform the economics, expansion's definitely on the list down the road. I think had it not been for COVID, we would have been further along in our transformation and talking more about expansion. But we're looking behind the scenes at data and things like markets that would be great for women's professional basketball, and obviously study the college game and how successful and popular that is in places in the country where we don't have a team. We've got to globalize our game. We're starting to get more global players drafted into the league, and can we do something like global games? So there's a variety of things that we're looking at, but expansion is definitely on the list down the road.
What do you think about the new uniforms this year?
Yeah, I mean, Nike's been such a great partner for the league over the past few years, and this is a project they've been working on and a huge passion for it. And I was out there last year in Oregon right before kind of the pandemic shut things down, and they were showing me what they were doing, and I had no idea how great it would become, the quality of these uniforms, the lift, the new ball, and the new uniforms in the 25th season. We're so fortunate we have some other great things coming up, like this is a Commissioner Cup game, so a lot of other things to help lift the league and market the league and really grow the exposure to these amazing athletes out here on the court today.
Commissioner, last question for you, and it kind of ties in everything we've been talking about, you know, the trajectory of this league and the increased fan interest across the country, but also globally. You know, I was reading an article, and you talked about the fact that through COVID and through your social justice stances throughout the league, you feel like maybe you were able to engage even more fans last year in spite of the pandemic. Do you feel in your position as the commissioner, when you're just at these arenas or talking with fans, do you sense some momentum here for this league in the 25th season?
Definitely. I mean, I said this last year as we went into this crisis. I said, you know, the one thing I learned from 33 years in business is that a crisis tends to, you know, bring out your weaknesses, but it's also your chance to fix them, and the decisions and the investments you make. And that's why we've been working hard, heads down, last season into the off season, into the tip of this season, because there is enormous momentum, and this is the time to capitalize on. This is the time where diversity, equity, and inclusion, which this league stands for, can sell, and you can bring in more partnerships. You saw we brought in another WNBA changemaker, Google, and in 1 week we signed Google and Amazon Prime Video to do a Game of the Week and do the Commissioner Cup final. So, you know, 2 big tech companies. So yes, the momentum is unmistakable. We have to capitalize on it, but we have to continue to invest and make sure that we are growing our fan base at the same time, getting more fans in seats when it's safe to do so, and we can open up capacity. And that's all the things we're working on right now, so that as we lead into the Olympic break this year and coming off the Olympic break, we have a strong push to the WNBA playoffs.
Well, Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to hear your insights and your plans for the future of this league. It's been a pleasure watching the growth over the years, and I know Megan and I are both so excited to take part in the 25th season.
Thanks, Matt and Megan. Take care.
Enjoy the rest of the game courtside, Commissioner. Meanwhile, Chicago still leading, Megan, 35-21. They've shot at 48%. And here's the big stat for me. They've assisted on 11 of 12 made field goals.
Playing very unselfish basketball right now. The spreading of the floor on offense has been really solid. Defensively have done a nice job, as you see Kelsey Mitchell knock down the 3 for the Fever. Chicago needs to continue running through its offense, getting those good cuts in the spacing.
Kelsey Mitchell 2 for 2 from downtown. They'll need more of her. Chicago on top by 11 as we head into the second quarter break. Head coach James Wade and his Chicago Sky have to feel pretty darn good about the way the offense has responded after the layoff, Megan, and after simplifying the offense. They've shot at nearly 50%, and they lead 35-24.
Every single player that has gone into the game tonight for Chicago has registered a number in the scoring column. Unselfish play, it involves a lot of different players to their strengths in this offense, and something that we're going to continue to see throughout the game.
Kalia Copper puts it in. That's a 3. And she is now in double figures with 11. What a season she's had so far. Of course, last year, the breakout year, increasing all of her numbers across the board, averaging over 14 points per game. She's continued that this year, Megan. But when you talk to James Wade, there's just another level of confidence in Kalia Copper.
Copper has the ability with such an athletic first step to get to the rim at will, but when she's developed this 15-footer to a 3-point shot, she's going to be unguardable.
Dolson gets the board, back out to Copper, and out of bounds. What would you like to see from Indiana going forward?
Kelsey Mitchell is one of the hardest players on the floor to guard. Such a crafty player, ability to create her own shot. James Wade for Chicago saying they want to try to stay on her left hand, get into her space. She comes off of screens a lot. Indiana needs to continue getting her in the mix offensively.
She's got 8 points on 3 of 4. And Indiana turnover gives it back to Chicago. Kelsey Mitchell on the drive with the left, scoops it off the glass.
Makes it look effortless coming down. Azariah Stevens stands at 6'6" with a very long wingspan. Mitchell fearless going into the basket.
Coming off just the 4th Chicago turnover. Meanwhile, Vandersloot right back the other way, knocks it down.
Vandersloot with her feet set. Chicago has not had to rush a shot very often in this game. Really good spacing and really good awareness.
Azure Stevens rips it away from Lauren Cox, and the lay-in is easy for Diamond DeShields.
That's where Chicago is at its best, when they can get steals run out in transition. Players like Diamond DeShields and Kalia Copper have the ability to get down the floor fast. Got to get them out in transition.
Mitchell, tough shot. That's a three, her third of the contest. And she has struggled from downtown this year, shooting just 23.8%. And she shot 39 last year. Vandersloot with the 2-point response.
Mitchell's the type of player who doesn't need a ton of room to get her shot off, and it's very crafty and quick, deceivingly on the floor when she's able to get those long-range threes.
Vandersloot all over Mitchell. There's Lauren Cox, and bumped by Copper. That'll be a foul. Second foul on Kalia Copper. And we will step aside in Chicago. It's 45-29. The Sky with a commanding lead as we get set to close out the first half. See even more fans in the building as the season moves along. But the folks who are here have been treated to an offensive display that we have not yet seen from the Sky this year. 14 assists on 16 made baskets.
If you like unselfish basketball, don't change the channel, drop the remote, tune into this game. The Sky with 14 assists off 16 made buckets. Just goes to show you the unselfish play, first off, but secondly, simplifying the offense, keeping things so everybody has a good understanding it can be successful within the program.
Here's Diamond DeShields through traffic, rims out. Rebound Lauren Cox. Here comes Danielle Robinson. Underneath, and an and one opportunity for Tiffany Mitchell.
Indiana doing a nice job getting back in transition offense. Tiffany Mitchell getting down the floor, getting right behind Allie Quigley, beating her off the dribble, then maintaining the strength and balance to finish while absorbing contact.
Tiffany Mitchell now has 8. Indiana trying to hang around here and close out the first half on a high note. Vandersloot on the pull-up. She has been so good from that side of the floor tonight. Vandersloot now with 9 points. One of the best shooters in this league, no doubt about it. She's got a tall task tonight on the other side of the floor, defending Kelsey Mitchell, who rolls it down with the left hand.
Mitchell stands at 5'8", just taking Vandersloot down to the post like she's big, going to work. Mitchell, a crafty player, can score at any spot on the floor.
Here's Azure Stevens with the footwork.
Great, solid footwork, really light on her feet as she goes from one side of the basket to the other for the drop.
Azure Stevens will be the subject of our halftime feature later on tonight. Lavender, Kelsey Mitchell, no. Lavender on the putback, yes.
One area Chicago has struggled this year is offensive rebounding on the defensive side of the ball. Lavender making them pay, have to box out for your Chicago.
And meanwhile, for Indiana, that's probably been the best area for their team, has been rebounding. It's been the one bright spot for a team that's struggled to shoot from three. They've struggled to defend.
This Fever team has a lot of size between Tiara McCowan at 6'7", Jantel Lavender at 6'4", Jessica Breland at 6'2". They have the ability to show some length in the paint. Just haven't been able to connect on all cylinders for this team. But if Kelsey Mitchell keeps hitting shots like that, it's hard to guard.
She is perfect from downtown, 4 for 4. And just like that, it's back to 10. Extra pass to DeShields. Baseline drive with a fadeaway, knocks it down.
DeShields playing with so much confidence right now, taking it, ripping it baseline, going against the big down low Jantel Lavender, who had a hand up, could have blocked it, but DeShields keeps with the shot to finish.
Jantel said there's no bad blood between me and Chicago. I love my former teammates. They love me. they were as shocked as I was when we found out the trade was happening to send her to Indiana. But she is excited to be back on the same floor with some of her former teammates. Tipped around, Hebert comes up with it. And now Vandersloot dribbling out of the double team. To Shields. Off the back iron. Shot clock turned off to end the half. Robinson with time winding down. The kick out to Lavender. And we end the first half. Chicago on top 51-39.
Chicago coming out, really spacing the floor well, getting things going offensively, an area they've really struggled with. On the flip side for Indiana, Kelsey Mitchell continues to assert her dominance on the offensive side of the ball. 18 points so far for her in this first half.
Chicago, 11 assists on 16 made field goals. They're shooting 51% from the floor. Take a look at the upcoming WNBA national television schedule. Tomorrow night, Los Angeles at Washington, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then on Friday, Seattle at Atlanta, 8 p.m. Eastern. For more information on these games, please go to WNBA.com or visit the WNBA app. Chicago with 14 assists on 16 made baskets.
Even better.
16 assists on 19 made baskets, but I think what's been the difference as far as protecting the basketball? Only 6 turnovers, and they average 18 a game.
Chicago has slowed down a lot more offensively. It comes with that kiss, right? Keep it simple. Simplifying the offense, understanding timing with the screens. Everything has been so much better for the Chicago Sky team. They are in an excellent rhythm right now.
James Wade has to be pleased. We talked about it in the first half. He invited his team over for a cookout at the Wade household earlier this week, coming after a practice day where they had some time off and just an opportunity to rejuvenate, to refocus on their goals and the standards that they set for themselves at the beginning of the year. This is a team that's a dark horse to win the WNBA Finals. At least they were to start the season. But if you ask them, they still are.
People forget how long this season is.
Very long.
Most teams are only 10 games in or so. Dolson knocking down the 3 for Chicago. Most teams 10 to 12 games and maybe a third through this season. Still a lot of time left to make something happen for every team in the league.
23 games left for Chicago. Plenty of opportunity to get back to an above 500 record, make the playoffs, and then you never know what happens after that. Here's Jessica Breland, defended by Kalia Copper. 5 on the timer. And it's poked away by Candace Parker, and a shot clock violation.
Great defensive possession for Chicago. Kalia Copper all over Breland, denying her any sort of vision, making her very uncomfortable. Candace Parker then getting into the passing lane, making sure the other player on Indiana did not have any room to come up and save her.
That's the 10th turnover for Indiana. Chicago's done a good job taking advantage of those too. They've scored 12 points off 10 Indiana turnovers. And if you're just joining us, this has really been a double-figure lead for Chicago since midway through the first quarter. They have not looked back, shooting the ball exceptionally well, 51% from the floor, and they are 5 for 10 from distance. That woman right there, Kelsey Mitchell, though, doing her darndest to keep Indiana in this one. She's got 18 points, 7 for 10 from the floor, 4 for 5 from downtown. But now Indiana needs a second scoring punch.
That scoring punch has to come from a big down low as well. Jantel Lavender was having success in pick and pop situations early. Tara McGowan off the bench as well was having success earlier. Indiana needs to find a way to get that inside-outside ball going offensively.
Parker a little bit slow to get back on defense. She's still coming off that ankle injury that kept her out for 8 straight games. Tiffany, now Kelsey Mitchell, again, her 5th 3.
Mitchell cannot have that much room to navigate. As soon as she sees an opportunity, she is going to square up and knock it down.
Here's Steph Dolson. 5 on the timer for Chicago. Dolson steps back on Lavender and missed everything. Back to Indiana.
Indiana with a nice defensive possession, not allowing to Chicago move at will as much on that defensive side.
Kelsey Mitchell with 21 points. Leads all scorers tonight. He's been the main bright spot for this Indiana team. Jantel Lavender's had a good game as well. 8 points and 5 rebounds. Here's Vandersloot the other way off the back end. Kelsey Mitchell out to Tiffany Mitchell, blocked by DeShields. Regathers and knocks it down from the elbow.
Credit Tiffany Mitchell, because when you get your shot blocked like that as a player, easy to lose confidence. She has short-term memory, forgets the play, knocks down the jumper.
Second 3 of the half for Stephanie Dolson.
Dolson has that ability to knock down threes. Post players who can hit threes are so vital in the pros because they spread the game. Defenders have to come out, opening driving lanes.
Crafty move from Tiffany Mitchell on the reverse. Now, Stephanie Dolson missed a handful of games, 5 actually, playing in the 3-on-3 Olympic qualifying for Team USA. And she said even though it killed her to be away from the team, she developed as a player during that 3-on-3 tournament. And one of the things she said was being able to step out and hit shots, because on a 3-on-3 format, well, the post players get to step out a heck of a lot more.
That, and she also said her footwork was really able to improve because you're in so many more one-on-one situations when you play 3-on-3 ball. It looks like we have a injury here on the court, or a timeout. Tiffany Mitchell grabbing her face. Looks like she got hit by her own pick on a last possession. Coming down, holding the ball on the top of your screen. Breland picking Diamond DeShields. Looks like DeShields' hand maybe got into Tiffany Mitchell's eye.
Breland was walking off a little bit gingerly as well, because it looked like Diamond DeShields knocked knees with her on the pick.
Diamond DeShields does a really nice job defensively, bodying up and trying to fight over screens. Does it a lot of the times throughout their games, and looks like that contact hit really hard.
All right, so Indiana down 11. The largest deficit was 17. And now they'll look to chip away at this deficit when we come back. Indiana Fever basketball, they trail by 11. Largest deficit of the game was 17. Kelsey Mitchell has been huge throughout the course of this game, over 20 points. Indiana trying to get back in this one and snap the 5-game skid. Tiffany Mitchell into Lavender, and the second opportunity goes, and now Lavender in double figures with 10.
That was a heck of a pass from Mitchell to Lavender, and Lavender's able to make good with the rebound putback herself.
Back to single digits for the first time since midway through the first quarter. Steph Dolson fouled, and it'll go against Kelsey Mitchell.
Mitchell trying to
second.
Mitchell trying to stay aggressive on Kalia Copper, bodying up, trying to fight over the screen, prevent any sort of handoff situation for Chicago to go into its 2-man game.
Kelsey Mitchell has been spectacular tonight, particularly from beyond the arc, 5 of 6. Speaking of beyond the arc, Allie Quigley getting involved in the action.
Quigley has the unbelievable ability to quickly set her feet and let it launch no matter how a screen goes her way.
Missed those 6 games due to the hamstring injury. Just recently came off the minutes restriction. Tiffany Mitchell was 6. And another beautiful shuffle pass down to Jessica Breland. Tiffany Mitchell doing it in a multitude of ways tonight.
A couple of mismatches happen on that possession for Indiana, for Chicago, and Fever able to capitalize.
And a foul off the ball. It'll go against Indiana. And that is Kelsey Mitchell's 3rd. So back-to-back sort of ticky-tacky fouls for Kelsey Mitchell. Marianne Stanley feeling better about how her team has played in the second half, that's for sure. And a foul on Quigley on the rebound attempt.
Indiana has had a lot of success on the offensive side of the ball when they can get the ball into the paint, those touches, creating chaos and broken plays. Indiana's been able to capitalize multiple times in this third quarter.
Fewest points per game in the league this year, Indiana just under 75 a game. And Chicago right there with them, second fewest points at just under 76 per game. But tonight both offenses have been much better. And I think part of that, Megan, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, I think part of that is they finally had a second to breathe. Indiana played 10 games in 21 days. That's the most in the WNBA, including an 8-day road trip out west. They've had now 5 days between games to just reset and rejuvenate.
Had a really front-heavy schedule to start out and had to travel a lot as well. So exactly, have time to rejuvenate, to practice, to learn each other's tendencies just a little bit more in a more casual setting as Robinson gets the layup to go. It's benefited this Indiana team.
And it's an Indiana team that is not all that familiar with one another. There's 7 new faces on the roster, including 3 rookies. So youth certainly playing a factor in the early season struggles for this Indiana team. But they have gotten it to 8 here in Chicago. 5 on the timer, Dolson a 3. And missed it all. Tiffany Mitchell fighting for it, creates space and flips it up and in.
Tiffany Mitchell trying to post up down low at 5'10", has the ability to make a move with her back to the basket, and Chicago's going to want to talk things over.
Well, Indiana all of a sudden has it back to a 2-possession game. What's been the difference?
Indiana able to score the ball simply. Getting the ball inside those paint touches. And we talked about players stepping up earlier. Tiffany Mitchell is a player that has stepped up for Indiana. 14 points right now for the Fever. Last possession, just getting that good position on Allie Quigley. A little over-the-top lob pass. Mitchell getting the angle to the basket to finish.
Well, now Tiffany Mitchell has 14 points to go along with 4 rebounds and 3 assists. Indiana riding a 6-0 run. And they're outscoring Chicago 28-14 in the paint. Let's take a look at the upcoming WNBA national television schedule. Tomorrow night, right here on CBS Sports Network, Los Angeles heads to Washington, and then later in the week on Friday night, Seattle and Atlanta at 8 p.m. Eastern. For more on these games, please go to WNBA.com or visit the WNBA app. What is going through James Wade's mind right now? He saw his team up 17, now it's 6.
Chicago has to get back and be disciplined on the defensive side of the ball, limiting second chance opportunities for Indiana and also staying in really good position. A couple of times Indiana has beat Chicago on positioning down low in the paint, leading to easy layups. Chicago's help side defense, which was excellent in the first half, has been lacking in this third quarter.
Indiana has shot it 7 of 10 in the third quarter, and the Sky are just 3 of 10. Better defense from Indiana?
That could also be the case. I would say more so Chicago hasn't had as great of spacing as they've had in that first half. Hasn't been as firing on all cylinders the way they were earlier.
Leah Coppers checked back in to run the point for Chicago. Wide open was Azare Stevens, but it's tipped away by Breland. And now an opportunity to make it a 1-possession game for Indiana. Kelsey Mitchell. Tough shot, rattled off the back end. Wide open, Courtney Vandersloot in and out. Ruthie Hebert wins it back for the Sky. And now 10 on the timer for Chicago. Hebert spinning. Up couple of tough misses in the paint for Chicago on that trip.
Those are the types of possessions Chicago has to capitalize on. Ruthie Hebert got 6'4", got switched on to Kelsey Mitchell at 5'8". Has to take advantage of the size mismatch.
Great feed from Vandersloot, but Copper couldn't finish. She was well defended underneath by Jessica Breland, who's had an outstanding night on the defensive side. 3 blocks and 3 steals for Breland.
Excellent timing on the block as well for Breland. Indiana really able to capitalize on the points in the paint at the moment.
Tiffany Mitchell fouled by Hebert, and she will get 2 shots at the free throw line. Indiana's only shot 3 free throws in this game, and Chicago's only shot 9. Both teams are 100%.
Well, it's an interesting point. At the moment, Indiana with 28 points in the paint. They've had a lot of success when they can get into that high percentage range. A lot of those have come off of second chance opportunities. They have 9 second chance points off of 7 offensive rebounds. An area where Chicago has struggled is boxing out defensively and allowing those second chance opportunities to happen through offensive rebounding.
And as we talked about in the first half, rebounding has been the strength of this Indiana team. It's been a tale of 2 parts through the first 10 games of the season for Indiana. They've lost the last 5 games by a whole heck of a lot. Outscored in their 4-game West Coast road trip 400 to 291. But the first 5 games, they beat Washington, and they had leads in the 4th quarter against New York and Atlanta, but we're not able to close those out. Here's Diamond to Shields. Too long on the 3. But Marianne Stanley was hoping that this 5-game layoff would kind of allow her team an opportunity to reset after a tough trip out west and sort of get back to the momentum they had going through the first 5 games of the season. Team trails by 4 with just under 2 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. They trailed at one point in this game by 17. Danielle Robinson gives it back out to Lavender. Vandersloot steps out and rattles home the deep 2.
Good decision by Vandersloot. Seeing she got switched on to by Tierra McCowan, steps back up. McCowan doesn't want to come out and guard you that far away from the basket. Knocks down the jumper.
11 points, 7 assists for Vandersloot. Leads the league in assists again this year. Dolson tagged with a foul, much to the dismay of James Wade.
Foul gets called in Stephanie Dolson, number 31 on the top of your screen, trying to get into the passing lane. And she does get Tierra McCowan's wrist on that play.
James Wade still giving it to Carlina Tobin. Did not agree with the foul call. And one of his main points of frustration, Megan, over the last 7 games has been a lack of late game execution. Now, of course, we're not that late into this game, but it sort of feels that way almost with the way that Indiana has stepped up its level of urgency.
Credit Indiana the way they've put on in this 3rd quarter, getting those opportunities in the paint, high percentage shots. And now they're starting to get Chicago frustrated on that side of the ball and getting to the foul line.
That is the 4th foul on Kelsey Mitchell. 3 of the 4 coming in this quarter.
And sometimes the best way to guard a player is by getting them on the bench in foul trouble. Kelsey Mitchell was having her way on the offensive side of the ball for the majority of this game. 21 points. She leads all scorers. She's going to have to sit on the bench for a little bit.
Which will definitely hurt this Indiana team. She's basically knocked him off the floor. Meanwhile, Quigley knocks down her 2nd triple.
The moment Quigley gets her feet set, that ball is going through the basket, does a great job rubbing off the screen, setting her shoulders square.
All-time leading scorer in Chicago Sky history. Here's Tiffany Mitchell in the corner. off the mark. Heber skying for the rebound and ripping it away from the bigger Jantel Lavender. And Vandersloot draws a foul in 2 shots.
Vandersloot doing a great job drawing contact on that play because she went into the paint a little out of control. It didn't seem like she was going to have a shot to get a clean look at the basket. Recognizing where the defense is, speeds up, holds the ball, keeps it away from the help side defender coming over to draw contact.
Vandersloot down with 13 and 8. And it's back to a 67-58 lead for Chicago. About a 10-second differential between game and shot clock for Indiana. Lavender driving on Hebert, and she draws an offensive foul.
Ruthie Heber doing a great job that defensive possession, really frustrating Jantel Lavender. Lavender gets her with the arm right there. Contact is initiated by the offensive player, therefore offensive foul called.
"13 seconds left in the quarter. Courtney Vandersloot with the rock up top. Vandersloot on the drive and lays it in. And now back the other way. Here comes Danielle Robinson, a half-court heave. And Chicago gets it back to double digits as we head to the 4th quarter. Sky on top, 69-58. One of these teams will break the losing streak tonight. Chicago trying to snap the 7-game skid with a win over Indiana. Trust Arena in downtown Chicago. Matt Schumacher and Megan McEwen with you. It's a 69-58 lead for Chicago. Megan, Indiana had it to a 6-point game largely because they have dominated in the paint in this game.
28 points in the paint versus Chicago's 16. Getting that inside-outside game generating has been really effective for the Fever.
Kelsey Mitchell back on the floor with 4 fouls. Lavender a second opportunity, no. How about a third try? And that is Tierra McCowan cleaning up the glass. And Evans with space. That's her second basket.
Great decision by Evans coming off. Nobody comes up to guard her on Indiana, so she just knocks it from the free throw line.
Kelsey Mitchell looking for an opportunity. There's 21 points tonight. Instead it's Danielle Robinson, and they'll count the basket.
Danielle Robinson able to squeeze through traffic in order to finish and get the and one to go. Off the pass from Mitchell through the screen. Evans goes under the screen, which gives her way too much time and momentum to get to the basket.
This is her second made bucket of the night. 2 for 7 from the floor, but a big 3-point play here early in the 4th quarter to get it back to 8. Candace Parker back on the floor too for Chicago for the first time in the second half. DeShields driving high off the glass, but an offensive foul is called against Diamond DeShields. Fans do not like it here in Chicago, but it looked like Tierra McCowan got hit in the throat on the drive from Diamond DeShields.
DeShields taking the ball, which is what she does best, getting from one side of the floor to the other, and makes a great move towards the rim. And officials are going to talk about it, potentially go to the monitor to review this.
Officials tonight: Amy Bonner, Randy Richardson, Carlina Tobin. McCowan getting attended to by the training staff, and the officials will go to the monitor.
DeShields coming off the screen, going against number 15, Tierra McCowan. She extends that hand, initiates the contact with Tara McCowan, and that's where the official sees the offensive foul called. Even though McCowan is still moving, when DeShields goes up, officials are ruling that an offensive foul because as an offensive player, you have control over your body, they say. So if you extend a limb and initiate that contact, that's going to be called an offensive foul and potentially get ruled and looked at for a flagrant one.
What do you think? Flagrant or common foul?
According to the rule with the officials, this is a very similar situation to what happened a couple of games ago with Kalia Copper going against Christy Tolliver against Los Angeles, where Copper extended her knee. The officials called a flagrant one because of the nature of the play. This is a situation, it could very well get elevated to a flagrant one call, according to the rule.
The officials still conversing as Candace Parker leads the huddle chatter for Chicago. The coach on the floor. James Wade wanting an explanation. Candace Parker wanting an explanation. She really is an extension of the coaching staff on the floor, which James Wade has said has been such a joy to have. One more look at it.
And this ends up getting called a common foul. Again, officials really locking down this here, trying to make sure for the safety of the players that offensive players do not extend arms, even if it might look like a natural basketball movement.
Stolen away by DeShields and then fouled by McCowan. Big collision there in transition.
That offensive foul potentially providing a little fire for DeShields on the defensive side of the ball, getting into the passing lane, able to commit the turnover, or get the turnover committed rather, and then get fouled.
Shields looking for Dolson, had it tipped away by Kelsey Mitchell, but it'll stay on this side. Now Candace Parker getting the team together to call the out-of-bounds play. 71-63 Chicago, 8:10 left in the quarter. It has been weeks since either team has tasted victory, and for Chicago it has been a plethora of late game single-digit losses. In fact, 2 of their last 3 losses came by 3 points or less, 2 of them in overtime, and they are just right there and desperate for a W.
Important to note that it is still so early in the season, less than a third of the way through, or just about there. Still a lot can happen for this Chicago team.
Dana Evans, shot altered by McCowan. Posting up on Parker, 5 to shoot, and it's thrown out of bounds. That'll be the 14th turnover for Indiana.
That's where Chicago's been really effective tonight, forcing Indiana to turn the ball over, able to capitalize 12 points off of those 10 turnovers. Check it. 14 points off of 14 turnovers as Dana Evans drives in to get the bucket and the foul.
And how about her play tonight? Dana Evans, 7 points in 8 minutes. She had not scored yet in the previous 2 games for the Chicago Sky.
I'm really impressed with how much confidence Dana Evans brings to the floor. Reads the defense really well, hesitates just for a hot second as she comes off the screen, then boom, takes off to extend and get fouled.
Evans, the 13th overall pick of this year's 2021 WNBA draft, was initially drafted by the Dallas Wings, then traded to the Sky for Shyla Heal. Been a good pickup for the Sky, who really, Megan, needed some depth at the point guard position, and now she does it on the defensive side with Candace Parker winning it back for Chicago.
Massive, from a momentum standpoint and feel of a game, massive turnover for Chicago to be able to force right there. The defensive intensity from Dana Evans and Candace Parker makes that happen.
Here's Parker off the inbound. Hand off to the Shields. Parker with a mismatch, drawing contact, leaves it short. But we'll go to the free throw line. You know, the scoring touch has not been there tonight for Candace, but nonetheless has made an impact tonight for Chicago.
Massive mismatch. Tiffany Mitchell gets switched on to Candace Parker. Parker does a good job avoiding McCowan coming over to block it. Instead, absorbs the contact, waits a minute, and goes back up to get that foul called.
She's only 1 for 9 from the floor, but she's added 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, a steal in 16 minutes. Her first game since the beginning of May, when this team opened its WNBA season in Washington and got the win over the Mystics. Chicago's won just 1 game since Candace Parker's absence. She missed 8 straight games coming into tonight. Foul on the drive, and Indiana heading to the free throw line.
On the box out, DeShields going against McCowan down low. That to me looks like a basketball play where McCowan just lost her balance and fell to the ground.
So we'll stay on this side for Indiana. 74-63. Kelsey Mitchell now defended by Diamond DeShields. Tough shot goes down, and that's another triple. Kelsey Mitchell was 6 in the game. She has 24.
She also has unlimited range, baits defensive players in and just steps back to knock it down.
She is the reason Indiana is still in this game with 6:43 left.
Kelsey Mitchell did this all the time at Ohio State in college. Just a little hesitation, in-out dribble. The lefty making it look so smooth from beyond the arc.
James Wade was in a defensive stance too on the sideline.
You can put as many people on her as you want, in the game and not in the game. She's going to make you pay.
Dolson steps out. Steph Dolson now has 12 points.
Dolson doing a really nice job when McCowan gets switched on to her of stepping out and knocking down 15-footers. McCowan doesn't want to come out of the paint to guard that high on the court.
Breland shuffle pass to Tiffany Mitchell, and the baseline bunny goes down. Indiana continues to chip away. 76-68 Chicago. DeShields a corner 3, no. The drive will go against Kalia Copper. That is her 4th personal. Indiana hanging around. They trail at 76-68. Final 5 and change coming up next from Chicago. Candace Parker with the heat back, with the heat pack back on her back. She's played 18 minutes tonight for Chicago. 1 of 9 from the floor, but 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and a steal. Meanwhile, on the other side, Indiana has just continued to claw back into this. Megan, they trailed by as many as 17 in this game. It's now 76-68. And a big reason for that, points in the paint and second chance opportunities. No rebounds in the 4th quarter for Chicago. Until then, Kalia Copper jumping up uncontested to rip it down.
Well, that didn't age well, now did it?
It did not. About 2 seconds. Dana Evans did a really nice job giving a breather to Courtney Vandersloot, who's now back in to run the point for Chicago. Here's Azare Stevens stepping out. Dolson rips it down, and a second chance for Chicago. Right back to Dolson, blocked initially by Breland. Second chance, no. Stevens, yes, on the putback. Danielle Robinson defended by Copper. Five to shoot. Mitchell bumped. Weaving through traffic. Too heavy on the take.
Chicago trying everything in their power to throw bodies in the way of Kelsey Mitchell that possession.
Stevens, that's a three.
Stevens shooting the ball with so much confidence from beyond the arc. Courtney Vandersloot nearly just tackled Stevens to the ground after making that. Like, hey, thank you for that assist again. My goodness, Chicago clicking on all cylinders as we head into the final 4 minutes of this quarter.
Back in Chicago, 4:40 left in the fourth quarter. 81-68 lead for Chicago. Indiana at one point had it as close as 6 in the third quarter. But three-point shooting, partner, has been the story for Chicago tonight. A season-high 9 made threes.
Much of that because of good spacing. Much of that because players like Azurá Stevens have stepped up and knocked down multiple triples, giving the Sky a lot of confidence. 45% from beyond the arc for Chicago.
Rolls out of bounds with 2 seconds left on the timer, and it goes back to Chicago. And the Sky have shot it really well tonight. 46% from the floor, 45 from downtown.
And it's interesting, the players that have shot it well, it's been primarily the post players. Stephanie Dolson, 2 for 3 from beyond the arc. Azurá Stevens, 2 for 3 from beyond the arc. Those players that have been able to add that, shot to their game, spreads the floor, gives Chicago so many more options offensively rather.
Tiffany Mitchell caught up Diamond DeShields. It looked like with her foot as DeShields was driving. She went down hard. Here's another look at it. Almost looks like she caught Azurá Stevens' leg. A full timeout has been called on the floor as the training staff will tend to Diamond DeShields.
It looks like DeShields just gets tripped up on that play coming off the screen.
And she was hampered last season by knee and thigh injuries, only played 13 games.
Just coming off the Iverson screen, gets just tripped up with Tiffany Mitchell on her feet. Falls awkwardly to the ground.
And laying awkwardly too, with the top half of her torso off the court. So she's not level right now, and the training staff looking at the back of her neck and trying to determine what the injury is and if they can get her up off the floor. You hate to see that for Diamond DeShields, especially coming into this season feeling like she was healthy and ready to get back to her old self like we saw in 2019, where she was just a superstar for the Sky. Good to see they are getting her up off the floor. We will step aside for a moment here in Chicago as the staff tends to Diamond DeShields. The Sky are on top 81-68. Shields, she is now up and being brought to her feet. Jantel Lavender now with Indiana, previously with Chicago, one of her best friends on this team. And DeShields walking gingerly with the help of the training staff, but nonetheless up on her own 2 feet. And that's a really good sign, especially, Megan, after the training staff was looking at the back of her neck after taking a really hard fall there.
Just a really scary situation for DeShields going down. She was down for a long time. The whole staff came over and finally were able to get her up and walking. Good news that she is walking.
Dealt with a number of injuries last year, missed the better part of the season. Talking with Vandersloot, Quigley, and Candace Parker as she heads off to the end of the bench. She's played a significant role in this game too. 9 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, and a pair of steals to go along with a block. She's been all over the floor.
DeShields also consistently makes a massive impact on the defensive side of the ball for Chicago. She's guarded Kelsey Mitchell throughout this game. She's guarded Tiffany Mitchell. and always brings that length and intensity to the defense side of the ball.
Amy Bonner now trying to figure out who's going to get the basketball here. Meanwhile, Natasha Mack is back in for Chicago, part of this revolving door roster that we've seen for the Sky this year. She was signed a handful of weeks ago, then waived, now re-signed today before the game.
I thought you were going to start singing Return of the Mac.
I'm not a great
song.
singer.
Well, that's probably a good thing to spare
that.
us, please. Mac's going to come in and shoot free throws.
Right, straight off the bench.
Mac,
how's that for hopping into the ball game?
Hey, you know what? The NCAA Defensive Player of the Year, had a great career at Oklahoma State, brings great size and length to the floor for Chicago. And James Wade hopes that she also brings great free throw shooting on this next couple of bounces to the basket. That's so hard to do, by the way, to come in off the bench, not warm at all, and have to shoot free throws for an injured teammate. That is not an easy thing to do.
She was one of 15 players on the Wooden National Player of the Year ballot. Of course, as you talked about, ended up winning that Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, was the Big 12 Player of the Year. A great story, too. Started off in the JUCO ranks before making her way to Oklahoma State and just became a star for the Cowboys. 83-68 Chicago, trying to close the door here on the Indiana Fever. Two to shoot, heaved by Vandersloot in a shot clock violation.
Those are the types of defensive possessions Indiana has to continue having in order to get this into single digits as time dwindles down.
17 turnovers tonight for Indiana, 10 for Chicago. Quigley falls or miss, short. And now Robinson with numbers for Indiana. And Tiffany Mitchell too heavy, but Vandersloot tagged with a foul.
Vandersloot looked like she deliberately tried not to foul on that drive in, but last second stuck her hand in the cookie jar and got caught.
So Tiffany Mitchell to the free throw line. She's an 85% free throw shooter this year. Natasha Mack comes off to a standing ovation from her teammates.
That was an efficient 1 minute, 2 points, and then made an impact on the defensive side of the ball as well, just using that length and forcing the ball to go into Kalia Copper's hands for the steal.
13-point lead for Chicago, less than 3 minutes left. Vandersloot had it tipped away, and then Hebert crashed into by Tiffany Mitchell.
Chicago's timing on screens has been a lot better in this game compared to earlier in the season. Players getting more comfortable with each other, reading the situation a little better, spacing is there. That allows Hebert to set her feet on the initial screen that happened right before she got fouled.
Hebert with 7 rebounds tonight. That's a team high. The second-year player out of Oregon. And knocks down the back end of the 2. Kelsey Mitchell. 6 for 9 from downtown, 24 points. She's not scored, though, since early in the 4th quarter. Kalia Copper from the corner rattles out. Sky riding their longest losing streak since 2012. They've dropped 7 straight. But tonight, looking like that streak will come to an end. for Chicago. Be their first win since May 19th over the Atlanta Dream. And we talked about it earlier. James Wade inviting the team over earlier this week for a team dinner. He said, I hope that's a turning point for our season, but we'll find out. Looks like it's at least a turning point for now.
Sometimes teams just need that extra little bit of bonding outside of basketball. Every single day, coming into practice, training, weight room, always around the game, watching film. So to get away from the court, away from your natural setting, to still have that interaction, you can tell watching the Sky bench how much this team gets along. There's good chemistry. They laugh, they high-five each other, they're joking around. So to just have that ability and have the faith that your coach says, you know, I understand that we're not doing what we're doing right now, but we're capable of something great. So just having from the top the leadership to show that to a team is always helpful as a player.
And again, this is a team, of course, they've lost 7 straight. 3 of the last 4 losses by 3 points or less, 2 of them in overtime. They had double-digit leads in back-to-back games against the Mercury in the 4th quarter before losing those games. This is a team that's been right there in spite of injuries to stars Allie Quigley, Candace Parker, and missing players like Steph Dolson or now a Stu Dufall to national team duties. Much needed win for Chicago if they can hang on here on top by 16 with 1:40 left. Breland underneath, no, second chance, that'll go.
Great pass from Jantel Lavender, reading the defense, seeing Breland cut to the ball, giving her right where only Breland can catch it.
And meanwhile for Indiana, this is a step in the right direction. It's not a blowout loss like they saw time and again during their West Coast trip. Much more chemistry tonight and better play offensively, especially for Indiana, shooting 40% from the floor.
Indiana's Kelsey Mitchell stepping up in a big way from a scoring standpoint, 24 points. Tiffany Mitchell as well stepping up with a 20-point performance. And Indiana doing a really great job of getting points in the paint, generating a ton of offense, 34 points in the paint. High percentage shots lead to good things for Indiana's offense.
Jantel Lavender doing good things. Yeah, 12 points for her along with 7 rebounds. And this is an Indiana team, of course, that's in the midst of a rebuild. 7 new players, including 3 rookies. After not re-signing Erica Wheeler, Candace Dupree, and Natalie Achanwa, all leaving during free agency in the offseason. And that was a decision that the coaching staff and the front office made, deciding we need to take this franchise in a different direction and freshen things up a little bit. And so it's going to take some time for Indiana to get clicking on all cylinders. Led by legendary head coach Marianne Stanley, women's basketball Hall of Famer. Been in the game a very, very long time.
Philadelphia native. People don't realize how big the game of basketball in Philadelphia is and how deep it runs throughout the country. Men's and women's college basketball, NBA, WNBA. Marianne Stanley, one of Philly's finest.
And she won a national championship with Old Dominion on the women's side. She has been to the mountaintop. She also won a championship in 2019 with the Washington Mystics as an assistant. So she knows how to build a winning culture. And that's what she's tasked with now in her 2nd season at Indiana.
Knows how to build a winning culture not only at the college level, but also at the pro level. So multiple areas of which she can apply that knowledge and have success.
So a timeout here. Marianne Stanley going over some late game strategy here with her Fever. They trail it by 16, 42 seconds left. Always a learning opportunity. Meanwhile, the Sky back in the win column. And it's a team that many, especially with the signing of Candace Parker, feel like they could contend for a WNBA championship, get back at least to the conference final. Kelsey Mitchell, the 3 is short. And Dana Evans scoops it up. Evans steps back. Saved by Hebert. 6 on the timer. Wade yelling at Evans to get going. Hebert finds Mack, and she puts it in. And the crowd goes crazy for Natasha Mack, re-signed today before tip-off.
It's the loudest the gym has been all game. Natasha Mack getting those buckets.
So the Sky come away with a 92-76 win over the Indiana Fever, their first W since May the 19th against the Atlanta Dream. What impressed you most about the Sky tonight?
Chicago came out and stayed disciplined, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively as well. On offense, the floor was spread well. Multiple players got involved. Every single player for Chicago that got into the game tonight got a bucket. Unselfish play leads to good results.
92-76, Chicago Sky. We're going to step aside and take a break for those who watched on CBS Sports Network. Coming up next is We Need to Talk.